Welcome back, everyone. I think there's a couple more people drifting in. I think we're going to get going. The next presentation is from Matt Beswick, the $1 Million Dog. Over the last 8 years, Matt has run paid social campaigns that range from spending just a few pounds all the way up to huge campaigns. And today he's going to tell the story of how his dog cost him $1 million plus, as well as giving some actionable insights into how to make social media advertising in combination with other channels really work. Over to you, Matt.
Thank you very much. Hi. So I'm going to show you how to get more out of Facebook campaigns today, but just because I'm talking mainly about Facebook doesn't mean that this doesn't work on other platforms. So we do a lot with LinkedIn, a little bit with Twitter, a little bit with the likes of Instagram as well. Obviously, there's a lot of crossover between Instagram and Facebook. It does get quite geeky at times, so if we start to see everybody go, I'm really hungry now, you need to shut up, it's lunchtime, then fine. But the geeky stuff I'll try and talk through in a way that makes sense to people who aren't that technically minded. So I'll start by flashing back to 2007. I was being an adult. I had quite a decent job. I'd kind of come out of uni and got into this grad scheme. I was living with a girl and we'd just bought a dog, like really proper grown-up things, which we all like to pretend that we are grown-ups. Also in 2007, Facebook opened up their API, so you could start developing applications for it. You could do games or quizzes, all those quizzes that you get kind of thrown at your profile over and over and over. They kind of started around 2007, 2008. So I made a game. That is the second version of the game that I made. The first game that I made was called Safari Scrap, which I didn't realize at the time, but you break that up and that says Safari is crap. It was okay. It was like a fighting game with pictures of cartoons, lions and tigers and those kinds of things. We got like 20,000 users, something like that. And we were doing $10, $20, $30 a day. Like not very much money, but we were really early into it and it showed there was potential. At the same time, that girl that I was living with was like, why don't you make a game where people can adopt dogs on Facebook? And being a bloke who does what he's told because he knows what's good for him, was like, okay, fair enough. And spent the next kind of couple of weeks putting this together. Now, I'm not a developer. This code was awful, and I mean really, really awful, but it worked. And we went from nothing to about 250,000-ish daily players within the space of 2 or 3 months. We built a load of viral channels in. It let me quit my job. We bugged to Hong Kong and all those kinds of places and just worked around the world for a while. And it was really good fun, really good times. We got in at the right time. I think we were the first app to do something like $1,000 a day on Facebook and that kind of stuff. Right place, right time, luck. Crap coder, but say luck. That was my presentation at what was called a Facebook garage. So we were invited down to Facebook's headquarters. That's my first ever kind of grown-up slide deck. One slide, there was a guy that was on before who really knew what he was doing and had all kinds of cool stuff going on. That was me, like geeky, little, skinny, really white. And just after that, we had an acquisition offer for this game for $1 million from one of the companies that had just taken in a load of investment. And they were like, come on, we'll buy your game, we'll move you out to San Francisco, you can come and work with our teams, we've just had all of this money come in, why don't you? And we were like, okay, that kind of sounds cool, San Francisco, I could get on board with that. We just bought a dog. And the problem is, when you buy a dog and you have a girlfriend or fiance or wife or husband, it probably works both ways, but most people will know, like the dog becomes a lot more important than you are. And the dog is kind of put before anybody else's thoughts and feelings. That's the dog. A few cutes. Usually I put this slide up and at conferences people go, but we're at an affiliate conference, so you like, show me the £50 notes and the booth girls. So dog. $1 million dog. And we were like, no, actually, we're all right. Like, things are going pretty well. Things had taken off a little bit more. The revenue was increasing, and we just kind of decided to stay where we were. Now, that right there is where the offer for the acquisition came in, and you can see that things carry on going up for a little bit, and then they start to even out. And that was because the likes of EA and those kinds of people started coming into the industry and kind of buying up games houses, putting loads more investment into the development and doing stuff that was way cooler than a crappy picture of a dog that goes on your Facebook profile. This is what happened next. Like, that graph goes down, and that is a very accurate representation of what was going on in my head for about the next 3 months or so. But it did mean one thing. So This is a screenshot of my personal Facebook ad account. This is back in the day, like there was no real business ad accounts or anything like that. This is my personal Facebook ad account. And you can see here that I spent $64,274.08 getting people to adopt a fake dog on Facebook. That's my own money. Like, you can buy a lot of dogs for that kind of money. But what it meant was that we had to learn really, really quickly, because when you're spending 65 grand getting people to put a picture on the Facebook profile, you kind of have to make it work, especially when you're up against the big boys. Actually, what happened from that, ROI was about a 7x. Now, you couldn't do that now because things have changed so much, but we kind of put a load of stuff in to make sure that every dollar that we were putting into advertising, we were making something back. Like all the viral channels, all the stuff that we were putting into this game, and the calls to action that were in the adverts, we were tying it all together and making sure that it was really working for us. Now, like I say, lots has changed since then. If you tried to do that now, then you'd be on the street and you wouldn't have a dog or a house or anything to live on. But I'm going to talk you through some of the stuff that I've learned over the last 7 years or so. There's some basic stuff in here, so if anybody runs Facebook campaigns already and really knows their stuff, you'd be like, okay, all right, fine, that's an audience. But I do go into some more advanced bits and pieces. Also, there's a longer version of this deck, which I haven't got time for today, but if you want to get into it afterwards, I can kind of talk you through some of the stuff that we're doing with funnels and moving people from organic into paid. So the basics. Within Facebook's advertising system, you have custom audiences, which are people you define, and you have lookalike audiences, which are audiences that Facebook help you to define. Neither's better than the other, and it depends on the situation as to which is best to use. So one of the recurring themes in this is like you have to use your brain. If you're running social ads or any advertising really, like we get really, really wrapped up in what we could do, not in what we should do. It's data, like just concentrate on the data. If you're running ads that are really working, but you think like this shouldn't be working, why is this working? Do it anyway, just carry on and make things better. So I'm going to talk about pixels and conversion tracking. Now this is one of the things that most people miss. It's not just for geeks, it is for everybody. And if you don't have your conversion tracking properly set up, then how do you know that your campaigns are performing as best they can do? Now that is Facebook's pixel code. Now what most people do when they start setting up Facebook ads is they go, right, so I'm going to get the pixel code, I'm going to copy and paste that into the head of my site, and then done. Because that code means that you're passing data from your website back into Facebook's system and allowing you to build out those audiences. Actually, it's not done because there's so much more that you can do. Conversion tracking. So we can track views of site categories, and here's a good example. So say I sell dolphin training equipment, and I want to track anybody who views the category, which is category/dolphin training equipment. Again, you can do that within Facebook systems. So you put the pixel on your site, then you go into their system and say, right, I want to track anybody who views that category and put them into a bucket that I can then use later. You can track people who've maybe added products to a basket. So again, a lot of e-commerce sites work off this kind of thing. So you've got the basket with an ad prod equals whatever at the end. If you've got a URL on your site that lets you track those people, you can drop those into an audience. So you could say, well, anybody who has added something to the cart or taken a certain action on the site that's URL-based, let's stick them into an audience, and then we'll do something with them later, like retargeting ads or whatever it was. Something else, like we've got a few different options, so you can view different viewing content on the site, which is a URL. It could be people that do a search or a search for a certain type of thing, initiating a checkout, actually making a purchase, turning into a lead, completing a registration, like all of that kind of stuff. If you're tracking that and you're pushing the data back in, you can start to do something with it because you've put in the site audience into different buckets and you can start to serve different adverts to them, which is great. The problem comes when you're a bit limited, because if your site doesn't work off URLs for what people are doing, so say when they add it to the basket, the page doesn't change, it's still on the same page, you can't really track that very easily. And what if you want to track other stuff as well? So you might be a site that has different actions that are going on, and I'll show you some examples in a second. Again, it gets more difficult, and you can't track that. Talked about the URL thing. So this is an example. We have, and I haven't used any affiliate sites on this. This is a real client of ours, but Just Tires. They have a live chat that you click through on to talk to one of their ops. Now, if you click on that button, you can see the URL that opens up is websitealive.com. Now, we can't put a Facebook pixel onto that site because we don't have any control over it. So how do we know that somebody's actually initiated a chat? And that's quite a powerful thing for a site. If somebody's taken the time to speak to one of your customer services people, then they've interacted with you and they might be ready to make a sale, and serving ads to them if they haven't already bought would be a good thing to do. The solution is what we call code-based event tracking. So the head code that we talked about before, which is here, there's a couple of lines in there that are really, really important, one of which is the FBQ track page view. So in the pixel code, that tells Facebook that a page has been viewed. Now, there's loads of other stuff you can do with this. I'll go back, somebody's taken a picture of that. So there's loads of stuff that you can do with those lines of code. It isn't just tracking a page view, you can track conversions through it. So once the main snippet's added, there's loads and loads more that you can do. Now, taking it a little bit further, to do that, we use Google Tag Manager. Can I have a very quick show of hands for anybody who has heard of Google Tag Manager? Yay, okay, good. That's more than most conferences as well, that's really good. So for anybody who hasn't, Google Tag Manager is a way that you can push code onto websites without having to copy and paste the code into the actual source. So it kind of acts like a cloud-based system that you can say, if somebody does this on a site, then execute this code. I think that's a fairly decent description. The way that it works is based on events, triggers, and tags. Bear with me. So an event is an interaction, a trigger is a rule, and the tag is the output. So an event could be a user clicking on the play button of a video. The trigger is the click code for that video firing, so Tag Manager can listen for that and know that it's happened. And the tag is the custom event code that we're talking about here. So basically, you can say, if somebody is on a website, and say we've got a client who only have a couple of conversions a day, 2 or 3 conversions a day, it's really high value, so you're not going to get loads and loads of people making a purchase. This video option here is what we use. So these are a laser eye clinic based in London. Like I say, 2 or 3 conversions a day, that's the most we're going to get. We think that people watching the video is a really good interaction on that site. Because if you've taken the time to go, all right, who are these guys? What do they do? Let's find out a bit more about them, and spend some time watching a video, that shows that you might be ready to move down the buying funnel. So what we can do with Tag Manager is say, anybody who clicks on that play button there, we're going to listen for that. And as soon as that play button executes, we're going to fire that pixel code that I mentioned before through into Facebook's system and stick them into a bucket that we can use later. So what we can do is basically listen for it, watch the video button. That's the code that fires. So we're tracking a custom conversion, which is a video view. The video name is the home page. We're not assigning a value to it, but we could say, well, we know that 1 out of every 100 people who watch the video actually go on to get in touch and then become a patient. So we could say, well, that value is 150 quid. Again, that lets you start pushing ROI back into Facebook and start seeing how well your ads are performing. And if you know that for every 20 quid you spend, you get potentially getting 150 back, you've got that extra data, and you can then segment by the different audiences as well. So you know that this audience is generating you a 4x, this is generating you 10x, so therefore you should concentrate on this audience. That's a view. So there's a Chrome extension called the Facebook Pixel Helper. That's the view that you get through Chrome, and you can see there that the custom parameters get pushed back into Facebook, so we know it's working. We can create a custom audience, like I said, so they watch the homepage video. Again, that's a quick screenshot from Facebook of how it looks. Any video views past 30 days, and we'll call on the audience video viewers. Simple as that. Like, that's a really simple example of how you can get that data, push it back in, and then do something with it. You can then, off the back of that, use your custom audience to create a lookalike audience. And a lookalike audience is you going to Facebook and saying, we want to find, say, 1% of people who are very similar to the audience that we've already built. So Facebook knows a lot about you. Like, I heard the other day that Facebook have an affair algorithm. So they know that you're going to have an affair before you do, based off what you're doing online. That's scary. And you think about the amount of data they have, they can find people who are really, really similar to your audience really easily. Now, you need a decent volume of data going through. It's like when you're advertising through Facebook. Like with some of the conversion campaigns, if you're spending less than £1 a day, the algorithm hasn't got a chance to kick in. So you need to be throwing quite a lot of data at Facebook to make it really work. But if you've got enough people going into these audiences, you can use it really well. Again, another example. So popover forms. This is the same client. the book a consultation request appears in a box above all the rest of the content on the screen. So the URL doesn't change. There's no way to track that unless you use this custom conversion code stuff I'm talking about. Here's another example. So you click on that, you get the book a consultation, so it's the main contact form. The category is a quote. We're going to assign a value of 1,250 because this isn't real numbers. I like my clients. I don't want them to either kill or sack me, so that's not a real figure. But we know that around 1,250 quid is generated from people who go to book a consultation, for example. Again, building up that data. You can do anything else. Like we've got here, you can see it's a track custom with the event name. So you can say, I want to track this. Here's the event name that I have, and here are some parameters. So it could be the name of the page or the type of interaction that people are making. It could be a number-based parameter. So you could be saying this person has viewed 12 pages on the site, and they're currently on the Dolphin trading page. Therefore, they're a great person. We want to get some ads to them. Assign the value, assign a currency, and that's it. Like literally anything that happens on a site, you can track and push back into Facebook. In Tag Manager, this is an example of how things would look. So you set up your tags and your triggers, and we've got the Dolphin training example that I gave earlier on. It could be a page view. You can set Tag Manager to listen for anybody who clicks on a mail to link. So if you don't have a contact form on a site, but you want to track who's emailing you, again, you can track that with Tag Manager, just literally like that. It's a really, really quick thing to do. No cocking about with all of this like custom event code that you used to have to do. It really makes life easier and speeds things up. Okay. So that's the geeky bit over. I have to go quick because there's so many slides, but afterwards I'm going to hang around, so if you want me to talk you through any of this kind of stuff, I'm more than happy to do so. Creative, as a general rule, if it moves, it catches your eye. Like, there's so much noise on Facebook now. You think when you're scrolling down, you're going down and down and down, and there's like friends posting stuff, you've got all videos, you've got dogs and cats and what have you. Like, you have to really grab people to get them to engage with you. Here's an example from the insurance industry. I'm going to move my backside and get out of the way. So really simple animation, but it's there. It's designed to make people just stop and look. Haggerty, they only do classic car and bike insurance. So if you're that kind of person, you've got your audiences right, and you get it in front of people who have got an interest in that. Chances are that they'll see that and they'll stop, and it works really well for us. But split test it. So take on board what I said before. Which of these two ads do you think will perform better? I'll get a show of hands in a second. So we've got a nice animated GIF there, which is designed to catch the eye, and then we've got the carousel, which are just normal static ads. If you think it's the animated GIF, put your hands up. Yeah, no. We get a 2x ROI on the static compared to the GIF. Now, I don't know why this is. There's not really a logical explanation for it. What we think are a couple of things. One, if you look at the one on the left-hand side, you kind of have to think. You don't go, oh, wow, pork scratching's awesome, I'm going to have a look at that. You're like, shit, bright lights, and then something in jars. You have to kind of zoom in on it. You've got some text as well that's going on. It does take a few seconds to think about what it actually is. On the right-hand side, you've got pig and beer. That's it. So for me, if I like eating pig and drinking beer, that may be going to catch my eye a little bit quicker. I also spoke to at a kind of branding agencies conference the other day, and one of the things that they said was that the value proposition of the one on the right-hand side actually looks better than the one on the left because it hasn't got as much friction. It looks like it's a nice kind of easy, cheap option to buy. So yeah, I don't know, honestly. Like I say, 2x, it's not normal. There isn't a normal. You have to test this stuff because what works for one person or one site might not work for another. You change some creative around, you swap some colors out, you change an image, and it all goes to shit, and you have to start again and work out what's going on. You literally just have to keep testing this. An example of how you can do really kind of quick, easy, animated stuff without having to spend loads and loads and loads of time or money. So they do crumbled pork crackling that you can put on top of salads to make salads actually enjoyable. Great product. Those images there, we just kind of got the part, you sprinkle it around, and you take some frames of the crumb being there, the crumb being not there, and it gives you a really kind of nice, I'll show you, really nice, easy image. And again, that catches the eye. People are going to engage with it. That being said, you don't need to go to that kind of level. You can use statics, build them into carousels. Carousels work really well. If your calls to action are great, then it will work really well for you. Also, you don't actually need a lifestyle image. Going back to the insurance stuff that I talked about before, this, which is a massive block of orange, is probably our best performing ad across most, if not all, clients that we have. It is literally a square box of orange, but it's the Porsche 911 single orange, so that makes it okay. And this, again, it ties back into Haggerty's kind of overall branding and advertising that they do in magazines and print as well. So we're tying everything together. But if you think about it, when you're scrolling through Facebook as well, we've got all the dog and cat memes, fine. You've then got all the text and what have you. You've then got these videos and the animated GIFs that we're all spending hundreds of thousands of pounds making. That's a big block of orange, and it's going to catch your eye, and you'll at least stop and go, okay, that's a little different. So if there is anything that you can do which will make you stand out and just do something that nobody else is doing, even if it's a big block of orange or red or blue or whatever it is, give it a go. That's got zero cost to put together. You can split test that really easily, see if it works. Forget sound, 85% of people have you on mute anyway. If I'm sat in the office at work, I don't want any of our team knowing that I'm browsing Facebook. Everybody else is exactly the same, just don't worry about it. If you're doing video, make sure the subtitles on there, just sound, don't worry. This is kind of the point where it's nearly lunchtime, people are sat there thinking, all right, so give me that one killer takeaway. There really isn't a one-size-fits-all. I would love to be able to stand here and go, this is what you should do. It will work every single time. It doesn't work like that. This is still in its infancy, and everyone's still developing. I'll go back to 2007, 2008, when I started working with Facebook. The platform was a shitstorm. It didn't work half the time. It broke. And it's got better, but Facebook are really still figuring stuff out, and they'll freely admit that as well. And because they're still figuring stuff out and trying to make their algorithms better, like the stuff that came out a couple of weeks ago with pages getting lower and lower organic reach, which is going to carry on happening, they're still changing. And that means that we're still figuring stuff out. And that's not going to change anytime soon. So keep testing, keep doing stuff that's a bit different. Just to give you some examples, in recent months, we've found that the insurance client gets their best conversions using custom audiences. We've got a restaurant booking engine that do really well from lookalike audiences, but not so well from customs. We've got a travel client who does best targeting people who live in a certain location and have a propensity, can't talk, towards discounts. There's so much stuff going on there. You've got to try different things. So you're all right, great, thanks. Yeah, really useful. You showed us some ads, that's it. Just very quickly, sorry. Test, keep testing. Scheduling is really important. If you're B2B, don't give up on Facebook. Think about the times that you're running those ads. It could be that you want to hit people when they're on lunch and when they get in the morning, and you're only running those ads for a couple of hours. If you're serving B2B ads to me while I'm sat at home watching EastEnders or watching the football, I'm not going to interact with you. So think about when you're running your ads. Look at bid strategies, expanded audiences, look at Instagram, all that kind of stuff. Don't just kind of say, right, I'm going to run some ads and that's it. Define your event, set up the triggers, gather the data, and then use it on small-scale tests. So, if you're running adverts already, always make sure you've got at least 5%, maybe 10% of your budget to run on tests and see what could possibly work, and then do more of that stuff that's good. Remember, not everything kills it first time. It might be a small tweak that you have to make, so test, change, and don't let your audience become immune. All of that creative that I've showed you there, we swap out at least every 6 weeks or so. And it might be that we go back to it again the following 6 weeks, but we don't keep running it because people get immune really, really quickly. You know what it's like. Once you've seen the same ad 2 or 3 times, that's it, game over. You're not going to interact with it. So swap out your colors, swap out your calls to action, and just keep trying stuff. And now I'm done. Further reading, there's the Facebook developer guide, if anybody really wants to have a look at that. For Tag Manager, have a look at Simo's site. He's great, really knows his stuff. Anything Tag Manager related, he is the man. And for Facebook ads as well, if John Loomer, if you're not reading John Loomer's stuff and you're doing Facebook, then you definitely should be. Thank you very much. I'm in time. Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Turn my microphone. Oh, fantastic. All right, we've got a few minutes for questions for Matt. If anyone's, we'll run a mic round to you. There's a gentleman here. Thank you. Can we furnish her with a mic? Thank you. Hang on a sec. Okay, it's on its way now.
I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on bidding strategies. Is there certain bidding strategies that you think work for certain products, for certain objectives? Do you always go with optimize for conversions? And if you are, do you set a price or do you aim for max conversions?
Shitty answer, it depends. So we don't always run conversion campaigns, but if we are running conversion campaigns, then, and it's a longer answer, but there's a way that you can double optimize with conversion campaigns. So you effectively push lookalike audiences through that conversion algorithm, and it keeps going on a kind of a double optimization style. That's a really shit explanation. But if you're doing that, then you need to be spending a lot of money because the algorithm has to kick in twice, and that's where the $1,000 a day thing came from. For other campaigns, like we will literally throw as many eyeballs as we possibly can. It's kind of like throwing shit at the wall and just seeing what works, and then you move into the kind of the lead or the conversion campaigns.
Well,
so
for every campaign, you can trial CPC and then CPM
exactly.
and then reach and then
that's it. Yeah.
Can you try them all for every campaign?
Say that again.
Can you try them all for every campaign?
It depends on the budget. So for most campaigns, we'll kind of go, well, this really lends itself to a lead campaign, so we're going to throw 85% of budget at that. But we will always try the other options because sometimes it just surprises you. It is budget dependent though, so if you're spending a lot of money, that does make it easier, and it means that you're more likely to get conversion campaigns to work quicker. At the lower budgets, like sometimes we have people come to us and say we want to spend like $50 a day, something like that, get us some eyeballs, and we're like, okay, so we'll start by just kind of getting people through to the site, and then if we can show that it's really working for them, that's when we can ramp the spend up, and that's when your conversion campaigns kick in. So yeah.
For all your campaigns, do you use Power Editor or do you use something like Smartly?
Generally Power Editor, yeah. Cool, thanks.
Thank you. Any more questions in the audience? Okay. I have one, actually. I mean, is there a minimum budget needed for Facebook ads to be viable, Matt?
Kind of mentioned that before, so no, there isn't. But if you're dabbling, so if your ad spend across everything is just picking a number out of the sky, say 500 quid a day, and you go, well, let's try some Facebook, let's throw a $5 on it just to see what happens. It's never going to work. You're never going to get anywhere. So you need to be spending a decent amount to get it to work, but that decent amount does depend on what it is that you're advertising.
Okay. What about LinkedIn? Viable or not?
It's all right. It gets expensive. Your cost per clicks for LinkedIn, you're looking at £4, £5, £6, £7. So you need to have a product that's really worth it, and it needs to be high value. Again, with LinkedIn, like the audience definitions you can do, particularly for B2B, you can say we want to hit people who work for companies with over 2,000 employees who are marketing directors. Like you can really hone in on them, but your content offering has to be spot on for that because there's so much stuff out there now.
Right, we're coming to the end. This is your last opportunity to ask a question to Matt, at least publicly anyway, because as you said, he's going to hang around afterwards if you want to kind of drill in for any more detail in any of this. Okay. I'm going to draw things to a close. I'd just like to say thank you to Matt for that. It was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.